99.7 and 1450 WHTC now welcomes you back to WHTC Morning News. A little earlier than we normally do, but because of scheduling, we need to use the opportunity when we have. We are chatting with Congressman Bill Huizenga of R-Zeeland on the other end of our Zoom connection. Bill, good morning. Hope all is well.
Hey, Gary, good to be with you, and can't quite hear you. It's a little soft, but
okay. I will try to work on my volume here because
I'm working on it as well. So
it's a case of more than anything else. As our IT guy says, these things hijack the sound volume, and you try to talk louder, and then all of a sudden it goes down, down, down. So hopefully we can get it all straightened out as we go along.
Technology.
Yeah, you got that right. First of all, Bill, let me, oops, I got a little dink here, as we all heard. Bill, from the newsroom, ask about forgiving medical doctor loans, not giving tax breaks under the HEROES Act. I have a funny feeling that Dr. Davidson is behind this question.
So I'm sorry, I didn't quite hear the question.
Okay. Please ask about forgiving medical doctor loans, not giving tax breaks under the HEROES Act.
Well, I think that doing the HEROES Act, which, just to remind everybody, is for first responders. It's ambulance drivers, it's the police officers, it's the firefighters that are responding, those EMTs that are going out. It's for the nurses, the physician's assistants, the phlebotomist, the doctor that might be, whether it's in the ER or it might be also in the family practice. And I know that my former opponent brought up that, I think his term was wealthy doctors like me don't need a tax break. Well, not all of them are wealthy doctors like him. Those family practitioners actually they work hard, and they don't make quite the money that maybe he does. But it's also then for the people that are cleaning the rooms, cleaning the equipment, doing all those things. So the First Responders Act the HEROES Act is really for those first responders, those frontline medical people. And it says, okay, we're gonna treat you like we treat our men and women in combat. We're going to give you a federal tax break. You don't have to send in your federal income tax for a 4-month period. I think that's very reasonable, and frankly, for those younger doctors who may still have those medical loans, this is going to help them pay those medical loans. That to me, this is a much easier, simpler kind of plug and play ability to do that. And so I think the HEROES Act is a great direction to go.
All right, let me change a little bit to talk a little bit as we talk on this Thursday with President Trump trying to get a framework for getting the economy back. Health officials, some other officials are saying, whoa, let's back off here, not so fast. Really, is this a case because it's constitutional where the governors have to make the decision? Or, as your colleague Fred Upton told us a couple of days ago, really the decision is going to be made by how we, get on top of the COVID-19 situation?
Well, this is everybody working together at the federal level, the state level. As we see here in Michigan, and our governor has put in a far more restrictive stay-at-home order than they have in Wisconsin or some of the other states. And it's going to have to be both. So now here's an interesting thing that I've been saying time and time again. The response in Montana might be different than the response in Michigan, and that's okay. We have different circumstances. Now, I would like to extrapolate that and maybe look at around the country. There are going to be areas of the country that are going to be ready to be open far quicker than others. New York, New Jersey, that's probably going to be a little while longer than you're going to see in the Dakotas and Montana and some other states that haven't been hit as hard. Let's take that back down a little bit, and I think the exact same thing here in Michigan. Marquette County is very different than Macomb County. Oakland County is very different than Ottawa County. And we're having different responses to that. So I don't think, certainly for me, I don't have a problem with the executive orders that have been in the past and closing down schools and the things that have been happening here in Michigan. The question is, are we going to allow people to try to return to work and live as much of a normal life as possible as circumstances dictate, or is it going to be focused only on one particular circumstance in Michigan that then is going to be a blanket policy? To me, it makes a way more sense that we can have some sort of restricted ability to work, for example, rather than a complete shutdown. It makes sense to me that if you've got people out there trying to keep the economy moving by spending money, that's why everybody's getting these stimulus checks that started coming in this week. That's why we're trying to give the PPP, that Paycheck Protection Program, to small businesses so that they've got the cash to be able to continue this economy along. Because if we don't, Gary, there's real ramifications, and it makes it much more difficult to get up out of that hole that has been dug by this virus.
We're talking with Zeeland Congressman Bill Huizenga. We've had to do some scheduling work around. And if you're waiting to hear Leo Martinozzi mouth to mouth, we hope Leo can join us a little after the 8 o'clock news, about 8:15, 8:20 or so this morning. Got a call, a Twitter question saying, Mr. Huizenga made strong statements against the misuse of executive powers during the Obama administration. What about Mr. Trump's statements this week?
I'm not sure what specific statements they've been making or what they're referring to.
Peg's getting up right now. What statements are you talking about?
These were the statements of him saying that he would make some decisions for the states, and then he's walked that back. But there have been some concerns because he's talked about things, even talking about Congress. When you talk about executive power, he's talked about saying Congress can't meet. There are concerns about him overstepping. And so how do you compare that to some of the 2015 statements you made regarding overstepping in the Obama administration as far as executive powers?
Yeah, but both are equally inappropriate in that Congress determines when Congress goes in, not the executive. The states' rights, I'm still a states' rights advocate and believe that that is the proper place for decision making on certain issues like this. I certainly I know you reported about myself and the rest of the Republican delegation signing the letter encouraging the governor to rethink her executive order, and had some people try to say, well, why are you undercutting the governor? We're not undercutting the governor. We're asking her respectfully to rethink what she has done. And by the way, because of the Commerce Clause of the U.S. Constitution and the effect that it's having on interstate business here in Michigan, not to mention the billions of dollars that are being sent by the federal government, we certainly have a nexus in to have that conversation. So we need to have proper lanes for the executive, whether it's at the state or the federal level, proper lanes for the legislature. That's why in Michigan, we saw the state legislature have to go back in and reauthorize after 28 days the emergency declaration that the governor had. My understanding from my state legislative friends is that they had had some agreements and some understandings with the governor that she then kind of walked away from after they had extended this to her ability to do this until April 30. So we'll see now after that how that's going to respond. And interestingly enough, Gary, the reason why we had to move this morning is I'm getting on a conference call at 8 o'clock with the entire Michigan delegation, the House and the Senate, Republicans and Democrats, and the governor to have a conversation about what's going on.
One final thing, and then we'll let you go to that conference there, Bill. The $350 billion for small business pretty much wiped out. Yep. Some are complaining that the Small Business Administration trying to do a lot when they're not really ready to do that. What's in the pipeline? Can you as Congress do something before May 4th, which is the next time that Congress is scheduled to meet?
It needs to be. And last week, Mitch McConnell attempted to do that, put another $250 billion into that system. And it's a two-stage. It's one being approved, but then you have to actually have the closing There are the closings. Yesterday, I had talked to somebody who was a landscaper who was supposed to be doing the closing this week. I heard last night from somebody in the medical world that they actually, their organization just closed on theirs. There's others that are still waiting for those calls back to make sure that that money is secure. End of the day, Gary, it's been a very successful and unfortunately very necessary program that has once again been getting played politics with. Chuck Schumer and other Senate Democrats want to have additional money for the states. They want additional money for the hospitals, even though that money hasn't all been allocated or even gone out the door yet. Those payments, by the way, to the states and the hospitals are just starting. And we need to fund this. We need to get this $250 billion back in. I hope people quit playing politics with it.
Real quickly, tell a town hall meeting tonight, 7 o'clock. More information at your website, which is huizenga.house.gov.
Yep, and we'll be on there at 7 o'clock again tonight. I think this is our 6th week in a row, so looking forward to continuing the chat.
Bill Huizenga, if all goes well, let's do this again next week.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That's R-Zeeland Congressman Bill Huizenga, 99.7 1450 WHTC.